let's get on to my second question for you. So I want to know your take on membership communities and in particular paid membership communities. It's interesting because I see so many people trying to start them. I think they fall in love with the idea of recurring subscription revenue, which is understandable. And I do think memberships can be very helpful. And I at times I think about starting one and I go back and forth, and ultimately have not really done it up to this point. But you have an interesting sort of perspective on this because you had built and launched and grew a really successful paid membership community and ultimately decided to shut it down. And I'm curious why you made that two things. One, why you ultimately made that decision when it was quote unquote working. And then also what you learned from building a successful community. What do you think were the keys to growing it? And, what advice would you have for people that do want to do that?
Yeah, maybe I'll start with why I think it went well.
Mhm.
I think community all starts with sort of focused conversation and focused outcomes. So it's not the Justin Welsh community. It's a community of creators and solopreneurs who want to build a different lifestyle, who want to build one person businesses. We're all aiming at the same target. We're all trying to achieve the same goal. And I think goal alignment in community is what makes community really purposeful. But it's more than just goal alignment. It's also everyone has to have the same context. And so what I mean by that is generally I've found the best communities that I'm a part of, it's not just we're all aiming at the same outcome or we all joined because we like the creator who's running the community, but we've all gone through a similar journey. And that journey is usually in a self-paced course, a cohort-based coaching program where we can all speak the lingo, talk the jargon, talk about the things that we've learned in a space that is a community. So it's not just about goal alignment. It's also about we've all been on a similar journey and we all have the same context in reaching that goal. I think if you can get those two things right, those are major things. And of course, there's a lot of nuance in there and small things that I haven't, talked about, but those are the two big ones. And for me, I got one of those things right, which was we had goal alignment. I didn't think to take people who had gone through a specific course or program of mine and put them into a community where they could all talk using that similar jargon, lingo, and sort of context. That's not why I shut my community down. My community, even though it didn't have that second part, was thriving. 14K MRR business. More importantly, everybody loved it. People liked it. Everyone was resubscribing. For me, it was just a lifestyle choice. And when you make a commitment to a community, you drastically reduce optionality. So if you sign people up for a year, you're a year away from being able to shut that down if it's something that you don't enjoy. If you sign them up for 3 months, you're 90 days away. And what I realized is when I opened it for a year, I tethered myself to a 12-month commitment. Now, I enjoyed the community a lot, actually. I made some really great friends. We did some really great events. You were one of them. But in the end, I wanted to be able to spend my time in a more efficient way. I want to build more courses. I want to write a book. I want to potentially do a cohort based coaching program. I want to build a micro SaaS. There are so many things that I want to do. And my personality didn't lend itself well to synchronous communities, meaning if I had a 3 hour block of open time from noon to 3 on my calendar, I'd like to be able to use that to make strategic decisions and drive a big project forward. Instead, what happened was the community existed. It was always there on Slack. So as soon as I had that free time, it wasn't free time anymore. I wanted to go in, chat with everybody, drop a video, create some content. So it's almost like you never had a day off. And because I had people from 61 different countries, I never really had an hour off. Everyone was awake at some point in time.
Yeah.
So I made this difficult decision to shut it down and take my time back, take some of my peace of mind back, and just pursue different opportunities.
Did you consider at all, to what extent do you think that the community was about you versus the community being about each other? Right? Like, do you think and you can talk specifically about you, but also just in general, because I think
Yeah.
this is another thing that a lot of people get confused about when they're starting communities, right? Like, are people in that community really for access to the creator of that community, or are they in that community for access to the community itself? Right. And my guess is, I could be wrong, but my guess is a lot of your community was people that were drawn to you. Yes, they connected with each other and they loved that. But to your point, if you were to try to step back, my guess is their perception of the value of the community would probably go down significantly.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think what attracted them to the community was potentially me. I don't mean to have that sound arrogant, but I think that's probably part of the attraction. I think it'd be
Mhm.
foolish to say it wasn't. I think once they got inside, what really keeps people in a community is connecting them with one other meaningful person. If you can do
Mhm.
that, like people feel like community is really strong. The events were great. When I went to fold it down, I gave everybody a 90-day notice, which I wanted to make sure that we didn't pull the rug out from underneath anyone. And people were overwhelmingly disappointed, right? They
Yeah.
understood because I had dropped hints at it before, but they asked, could we keep it open? Could we all just chat? I think when you haven't built a community and cobbled together the technology, people fail to recognize the amount of work it is to keep it moving.
Yeah.
I can't figure out my Luma password. I don't know how to get into, read the emails. How do I log into outside? Like it's just a lot of customer service. And
Yeah.
so even leaving it open, making it free and allowing it to live on would have been a pretty full-time customer service role for me or perhaps my wife or the
Yeah.
tandem sort of combination of the two of us. So we just made the decision to shut it down completely. And a lot of folks asked, could they create their own community? And I said, hey, if it's as long as it's not related to my name, my brand,
Mhm.
you want to solicit folks out of this community, be my guest. I wanted them to have a place to go, you know?
Can you share the way that you charged? Because I thought what you did was a little different than what most people do, which is sort of
Yeah.
monthly or annual, whatever. I actually thought it was really smart. So you want to just sort of tell people how you handle pricing and subscriptions and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
I started with an annual plan
Mhm.
and enrolled a cohort, then a second cohort, then a third cohort. And as I started to consider optionality, I recognized that that was a bad idea because each cohort extended my commitment to the project another 12 months. And I never wanted to say like, hey, we're shutting this down and like giving you a refund. I just don't like that. I
Mhm.
like to just see through a commitment. And so after a while, I moved to quarterly memberships. And to me, quarterly memberships are the sweet spot. And if I were to ever do a community again, that's what I would do. I think monthly memberships allow people to come in, kick tires for 2 seconds, and then exit. It's not a hotel. I didn't want to build that hotel environment. But a year is on the other side for the creator or the person running the community, again, kind of drastically reduces that optionality. So for me, the quarterly membership was a sweet spot. It allowed me to always be 90 days away from saying, hey, this is no longer something that I'm interested in doing. But it also committed the member to kind of coming in for 90 days, understanding the channels, attending some events, making some friends, and getting entrenched in the community.
Mhm.
So I felt like that was an absolutely right way to price it. And I would recommend that other folks price it that way as well.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. And I think the other thing that quarterly does is it forces buyers again to make enough of a commitment to actually give the community a chance to provide value to them. But it also makes it they don't have to make an annual commitment, which means the price is less. So it makes it easier for I'm sure there were people who maybe wouldn't have signed up annually just based on the expense. But oh, for a quarter, I'll try it. Or I'm working on a
Yep,
project right now and let me see how it goes. So
totally.
great.